What's up, my spiritual Homo sapiens? Today we're going to be talking about my top 5 entity encounters in altered states of consciousness. Let's get into it. Coming in at number 5, we got the Jellyfish entity. I experienced this entity on a relatively low dose of psilocybin mushrooms. I believe it was 1.5 grams. At this point, I wanted to allow my body to be an open channel to receive information from entities. I made the conscious effort to try to contact something at this point. I shut my eyes and aquatic-like scenery began to form throughout my closed-eyed visuals. It all formed through geometric patterns, but it had this underwater type vibe to it. And then as I see this jellyfish-like creature with like one eye, it was like swimming up towards my real close in my perception, almost like like it was swimming up to the glass, like imagine like a jellyfish swimming real close to the glass and then just swimming away real quick. But I got this message, this telepathic message from this entity, and it was like, I'm here, we are here, but in order to learn more and to truly understand us, you must take more. It was just like a nice little introduction. That was the only entity contact I had during this specific mushroom trip, but it was a nice way to ease into the trip, knowing, hey, this is out there, but I need to take more if I want to fully experience what I wanted. At number 4, we got the Shaman Woman. I also experienced this particular entity on psilocybin mushrooms. I was at a hippie festival out in the woods during this. I began to as the come up happened, I began to feel really nauseous, and I was trying to play it off, but it just began to get really unbearable and just too hard to ignore. So I shut my eyes and just started to breathe real calm, trying to calm myself down. And then I just see this face of this woman. At first, I had thought maybe this was a Native American woman from the lands that I was on, like a spirit that I was contacting. But it also kind of looked like Maria Sabina a bit, so I'm not really sure what exactly I was experiencing. My gut is telling me it was more so a Native American woman because of the lands I was on. But, that's up for debate. I'm really not sure. All I know is this entity was trying to guide me through this negative experience. She told me to trust in the earth, trust in my mother. She told me to lay down on my stomach on the ground, and that the earth would heal me. So I decided to do it. I had nothing to lose at this point. I didn't want to go into a bad trip or anything like that. So I went down, laid on my stomach, face down on the ground, and immediately my stomach actually started to feel better and relieved. I felt the cool temperature of the ground just take over my body, and I just felt this pain relieving sensation through my whole body. And I got this perception of like a mother holding like a baby, a young child. It felt as if like I was the child and the earth was the mother, and it was nurturing me through this experience. This is actually one of my favorite, one of my more spiritual entity contacts. And yeah, this one I have a lot of appreciation for. And it's one of the experiences that really made me appreciate the earth as a nurturer. Coming in at number 3, we have the Grim Reaper. This entity encounter was actually from an astral projection / sleep paralysis type experience. I just went to bed like any normal night. I was laying next to my girlfriend Elena, and I remember, I fell asleep like normal, but I was still awake. I couldn't move my body though, and I just had this really negative type dark vibe in the air. My consciousness just like was on the floor in the kitchen, and it was almost like someone just set a camera down on the ground at night, and there's just like nothing going on, and you can just see rain and like a storm outside of the window, and it was just really creepy. And I couldn't move my body, obviously. When I zoomed back into my body, couldn't move, tried to tap on my girlfriend to wake up, to try to wake me up, and I remember feeling her leg but she claims that I never tapped her, and I swear I remember feeling her leg and everything. It was really creepy, and I just see this large hooded figure, just like very tall, right at the door, and this like really freaked me out at the time. And I like really tried to tap on her leg again, and like I couldn't scream or anything. I couldn't do anything. I tried to sit there, and then like I snapped out of it a little bit, and it was gone for a minute, and then like I kept sinking back into it, and then like he was gone for a minute, and then he came back, and he was like walking on the ceiling upside down, just like pointing at me, like taunting me, and it really freaked me out. I thought I was like dying or something like that. I snapped out of it one more time, and then this dude was just like right in front of me, like hovering directly above me. And eventually I just was, hell no, fuck this. And then I just like, I snapped out of it, and I couldn't sleep for the next like 30 minutes though, because I was just feeling really drained and freaked out from it. But yeah, this was not one of my better entity experiences. Definitely wasn't spiritual by any means, but you know, you gotta have, you know, good and bad experiences to get a full spectrum of reality. So it's definitely worth putting in this list. At number 2, we got the Snail Spirits. This was an experience that happened to me during an LSD trip. It was a pretty high dose of LSD, and I remember seeing this A-frame house out a window. This immediately made me think of a teepee, and I just began to slowly think of all the Native Americans who used to own these lands and used to treat these lands right, and compared to how it is now. And it was kind of upsetting. And then all of a sudden I got this strong vision of these snail people, and I got this feeling that they were actually Native American spirits, but they had they were like rainbow colors practically, and there was many of them in like a V shape going in like infinite directions, and they had like snail eyes, and I just got this overwhelming feeling of respect towards them. I was like humbled by them, and they knew I respected them, and it was like a mutual respect. I can tell that they acknowledged how much I respect the earth, and they appreciated that, and they praised me for that, and you know, that meant a lot. And it was just one of those experiences that was highly spiritual and keeps me on the spiritual path. And overall, this experience was just a confirmation that I was appreciated for my appreciation for the planet, and you know, that meant a lot. Coming in at number 1, we have the most important entity contact I've ever had in my entire life, and that is the Hindu goddess Kali. This last one is going to serve as a brief summary to the experience, because I'm going to be making a full trip report video on this experience in weeks to come, so keep an eye out for that. And without further ado, let's get into it. This was an experience where I would say I had the worst trip of my life, but it turned out to be the most helpful trip of my life. I went into this experience with a bad setting. The people I had around, this person I'm no longer friends with, it was just a bad energy. I can sense the tension in the air, but we decided to take it anyway. This was a point where I really didn't respect LSD the same way as I respect mushrooms, and you know, I kind of paid for it, honestly. I came in there with an ego. I took it, and you know, a couple hours went by and I didn't feel anything, and I was just really cocky about it for some odd reason. I was like, this isn't even affecting me, and I was like acting all big and bad about it for some reason. I don't know, I just had this real egotistical way about it, and I don't know. And I remember even joking. I was like, watch me just go into like a bad trip or something. I was just like laughing about it, and you know, that's the last sober thought I remember before I went and got plunged into hell, literally. I remember feeling very nauseous, like worse than the nausea of my past trips, and I just felt like I was actually dying, like something just felt icky and wrong and not right. And then like my vision began to like cave in, and it was like darkening until it was like a tunnel. And at the end of this tunnel, I just seen this face, and it was just so haunting. And this was the face of Kali, and it was like, it had this vibe of like, welcome to hell. And I thought I was dying. I went through a bunch of torturous things that no one should have to endure. I was literally in hell, and I seen all these tortured souls, and like, I was on the brink during this trip. It was the most challenging trip that I've ever had, but ultimately at the end, it showed me my true nature and is what allowed me to change the most out of all of my trips. Kali is known as the goddess of death, and a lot of people will confuse that as literally death, but what this actually means is the goddess of the death of the ego, and that's exactly what happened. That's why you see pictures, Kali has all these heads. It was the death of the ego as she shows you your true nature. So I actually have a lot of respect for Kali, and she definitely put me in my place for sure. This is, like I said, one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had to go through, but at the same time, it's what made me fully appreciate life to the fullest. I was a little shaken up for a few months after this trip, but, after I slowly put the pieces together of what I actually experienced, everything fell into place, and I've been closer to the universe than I ever have been before. So I gotta say, that experience was bad, but it was good. Sometimes psychedelics and experiences like this, they show you what you need rather than what you want. So keep that in mind and always respect what you take. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed and found this interesting, and hope you learned a few things about respecting the earth and the universe and not being an asshole practically, because, you will get put in your place eventually. So, yeah, be humble and live, laugh, and love, friends.